You won't believe how UFC 320 shook up the light heavyweight division. MagomedAnkalaev proved once again that dominance is earned, not given, delivering a clinical dismantling of AlexPereira in a rematch that fans had been buzzing about for months, and it all started the moment those cage doors closed when Ankalaev marched forward with cold precision, making every strike count and every second matter, shutting down Pereira's knockout potential that once terrorized the 185 and 205 divisions. Because this wasn't just another fight, it was a statement from a man many doubted had the stamina or striking adaptability to handle a champion like Pereira. Yet here we are, watching Ankalaev flawlessly blend footwork, counter-punching, takedown control, and a brutal clinch game that neutralized Pereira's power every time he looked to uncork that famous left hook. And while the fans were still reeling from their first clash back at UFC 313, this sequel not only delivered more violence but also clearer answers, because now we know Pereira's path to legend status is blocked by a wall of Russian discipline and tactical supremacy, and with each passing round Ankalaev only got sharper, especially in the second where he pinned Pereira against the cage, landing sharp knees and elbows, while stuffing takedowns and smirking through feints, leaving commentators and analysts in awe at his evolution. And although Pereira tried to shift gears midway with a risky spinning back fist and a high kick that barely grazed Ankalaev's temple, it was too little too late, as the judges tallied a unanimous decision that felt inevitable by the final bell, not because Pereira wasn't game, but because Ankalaev had grown into something colder, smarter, and more dangerous than the version we saw months ago, and now, with this 2-0 lead over the Brazilian knockout artist, Ankalaev isn't just a champion, he's the new measuring stick. The fighter you have to beat to be great, but let's not pretend. Pereira's story ends here because even in defeat, he showed flashes of what made him a two-division UFC title holder, from the powerful calf kicks that staggered Ankalaev briefly in round 3 to the defiant stare-downs that reminded us why his box office gold, and while the light heavyweight belt slips further from his grasp, talk is already swirling about a possible jump to heavyweight where names like Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades would test his power in a new battlefield, and UFC President Dana White has hinted that Pereira could be the wild card for a blockbuster event later this year, possibly in Abu Dhabi or Madison Square Garden, especially if he puts on size and builds a run at the BMF title or interim belt. But back to UFC 320. The real fireworks didn't stop with the main event, because in the co-main, Merab Dvalishvili defended his bantamweight strap in pure machine-like fashion against Corey Sandhagen, a technical masterclass where pace, pressure, and relentlessness collided, and while Sandhagen looked sharp early, throwing slicing elbows and angling out of Merab's relentless takedown attempts, it didn't take long before he was on his back, getting peppered with ground strikes and tied up in positions that gave him no room to breathe, and Dvalishvili's gas tank was, as always, inhuman, breaking his own significant strike record in the process, with fans chanting Merab by the end of round 4 as he threw Sandhagen to the mat for the 10th time in the bout. A brutal yet beautiful showing of controlled chaos that cements his place as a nightmare matchup for anyone in the top 5. And if that wasn't enough, we also got treated to a stunning return from G. Prochaska, who reminded everyone why he's a fan favorite as he flatlined Khalil Rountree Jr. with a second-round spinning elbow that echoed through the arena. A knockout so clean and cinematic it instantly made the highlight reels and reignited talk of Prochaska reclaiming his place in the title picture, especially with the light heavyweight landscape wide open outside of Ankalaev. And let's not forget the undercard where young prospects like Raul Rosas Jr. and Ian Machado Gary kept their hype trains alive with decision wins that showcased discipline, striking maturity, and improved octagon IQ, proving the UFC's next generation is already knocking on the doors of the rankings, and beyond the fights themselves. UFC 320 gave us moments, the stare-downs, the near submissions, the crowd chants in Las Vegas that gave the event a pay-per-view aura even in its calmer moments, and perhaps most fascinating was the fan reaction online, as Reddit threads, Twitter polls, and YouTube comments exploded with debates over whether Ankalaev could beat Jamahal Hill, whether Pereira has truly peaked, or if Dvalishvili is now pound for pound top 5. And the betting markets are already shifting with Ankalaev's odds shortening dramatically for his next potential bout, possibly against the winner of Rakic vs Walker, while Pereira's next fight odds remain intriguing, especially if he bulks to heavyweight where his KO power could terrorize slower opponents, and viewers across the US weren't just watching. They were analyzing, theorizing, and speculating, with podcasts, MMA forums, and live streams buzzing about everything from fight IQ to corner advice and even walkout song psychology. Which might sound like overkill, but in this sport, everything matters, and every narrative fuels the hype for what comes next. And if you've been following UFC for years, or even if UFC 320 was your first full event, you're now a part of the conversation, because this event wasn't just about winners and losers, it was about defining eras, challenging styles, and writing new chapters in the ever-evolving saga of combat sports. So whether you're Team Ankalaev, still hoping Pereira reclaims the crown, or just here for the wars, there's one thing we can all agree on: UFC 320 delivered, and it sets the stage for a seismic shift in the sport moving forward. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you want to see fight next? How do you see the divisions shaping up? And what was your favorite moment of the night? And if you love this level of breakdown, this type of storytelling, this much intensity packed into every second, then go ahead, like the video, share it with your fight crew, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the madness, magic, and muscle of the UFC.